So what is this awakening that humanity is going through? What has to do with awakening from the perspective of non-duality? Does it have anything to do about it or not? If you look in the media today, the good media, social media, you will find the word awakening everywhere. What is this awakening they are talking about? What is this awakening that humanity is supposed to be going through as a collective? That's what I will try to explain. So hold on if you're interested in this subject, because it's really crucial to understand what is this awakening and what is the connection between this collective awakening with the awakening to your true nature. Is it any connection at all, right? To begin with, the awakening they are talking about in the social media that humanity is going collectively through is not the awakening that Advaita talks about. It's something very different. But at the same time, it is an awakening, yes, and a very valuable, significant one. In the awakening to your true nature, what you realize is that the ego, the I, is only a psychic mass, but it's not real. And in that sense, I'm referring to both the good ego and the bad ego, both. Because the ego has a part of it that has no integrity and a part of it that has integrity. Through the process of evolution, through countless incarnations, the ego does develop integrity. We can't miss the importance of awakening to an ego that has integrity, because that is the first step. The ego first wakes up to its own power as an ego and its own integrity. And then gradually, as this awakening deepens, as the ego attains greater and greater integrity, one day, almost naturally, awakening to your true nature happens. But make no mistake, if your ego has not attained integrity, awakening to your true nature will not happen. So awakening to an ego with integrity is necessary, is indispensable. So I would like to explain a little bit more the difference between an ego with integrity and an ego without integrity, so that you can see where you are going, right? First of all, if you write to me, I will send you a chart that has two columns comparing the qualities of an ego without integrity versus an ego with integrity. And I will be happy to share with you that information. So I'm going to touch just on a few of these. First of all, an ego has attained integrity when it has awakened to being responsible, to stop projecting, to stop blaming others, to stop blaming the government, stop blaming God, and recovering your power and saying, no, it's up to me. I am creating my own reality, like it or not. It is my own beliefs and thoughts and actions and feelings what are creating my external reality, and I take responsibility for it. I stop blaming others and I assert my power. That is the cornerstone of the awakening to an ego that has integrity. Look around and you will see people that have awakened to this, and you will see lots of people that have not. They are constantly blaming someone else for their misfortunes. Another aspect of an ego that has awakened to its own power, to its own autonomy, is that it has awakened to its own rights. Yes, it has embodied them, and it knows that there are certain rights that belong to it, that they don't belong to other people, and therefore they know how to say no. An ego that has matured knows how to say no. It knows how to set limits. An ego that doesn't know how to assert itself and set limits will always be a victim of someone else. So assertiveness is also a cornerstone for an ego that has awakened to its own power and integrity. Because if you don't set limits, and I'm not talking only to the people that you have around, your family, your friends, but what about the governments, the government of your world, of your country? If you don't set limits, you will always be a victim. Another aspect of this awakening to an ego that has integrity is honesty. You know individuals that they are not honest in many ways. In their talking, they are deceptive. In their feelings are deceptive. In the communicating their feelings, they are deceptive. Their desires have no integrity. They only want something for themselves. Therefore, they camouflage in a veneer of unselfishness, but actually internally they are deeply selfish. These are egos that have not awakened to their own integrity, to their own power. An ego that has awakened to its own power is honest. It says the truth. It trusts that by being honest, somehow things will be okay. In fact, that honesty is attracting good things to their lives. Good friends, honest friends. Good business partners, honest business partners, and so on. Immature egos are deceptive. They will try to deceive you. So we see politicians being highly deceptive. They are immature egos. but you also fall into immaturity if your ego falls for their lies. So the world is going through something today that is about waking up to the countless deceptions of politicians and governments all around the world, that instead of being at your service as it should be, as it is stated in the Constitution of the United States and in most of the constitutions around the world, except totalitarian socialistic constitutions that they don't accept this point. But every constitution that has a spiritual backbone will tell you the power is in the people, and you have the power, and you give it to your representatives, and they are there to serve you, not to take advantage of you, not to control you, not to deceive you, not to instill fear in you so that you can be manipulated left and right. So part of the awakening of an ego with integrity is to wake up to your own political power. To wake up to what the Constitution of the United States tells you from the beginning. We the people hold the power. You need to embody that. It's part of your maturity as an ego. The government, the representatives are there to serve me. That's the position of an ego with integrity. I put them in charge. We put them in charge. We have the power. Why do we see so much deception on part of the politicians? Because we, the people, have not embodied this truth that is stated in the Constitution, that the power is for you. The power comes from you to your representatives. This was a tremendous shift. The moment the Constitution of the United States was written, was a paradigm shift for humankind of immense consequences. Think of how many centuries and millennia humanity had gone through, one government after another, one monarchy after another, that were highly corrupted and abusive to the people, so that the people came to believe, like sheep, that they were there to serve their corrupted king and queen. So when these sages that wrote the Constitution of the United States sat down to write this paper, they were well aware that the state was highly dangerous to the individual. And it is. Look at the abuse for centuries and millennia on the people. So what they did was to create an amazing document that states the truth and empowers the individual. And it starts with we the people, meaning we the people hold the power. You can bestow the power to your representatives, but the power is yours. You give them power so that they can serve you. When they rob the country, when they steal from the country, when they are corrupted, they are betraying their mandate, the mandate that you gave them to serve you. They are betraying you, they are betraying their country, they are betraying their mandate. Corruption of a servant in the government position is a very serious transgression. a very serious spiritual transgression. They have betrayed their country, their mandate, you, and everyone. And even their own principles, if they had any principles in the first place. And they have betrayed spiritual principles. Because they are also trying to evolve, and if they don't develop integrity, they cannot evolve. You can't evolve without developing integrity. Impossible. Because it's a passage. First you develop as an ego, you develop integrity. Then awakening will come, usually much later, because the process of developing integrity is a long process. So when you look at what's going on in the United States, for example, we have this individual called Trump, Donald Trump, that he's not a politician. He isn't. Because politicians, to begin with, have already betrayed the United States. The corruption of the government of the United States, as well as the corruption in other governments across the world, is immense at all levels. They are not there to serve you, they are there to serve themselves. So here comes Trump, which is not a politician, and begins to do what he calls the drying of the swamp. What for? To eliminate corruption. First, that's the first thing that needs to be done here. If the country is going to go anywhere, the corruption has to stop. And this is valid for all the countries around the world. They are all in one way or another going through the same problem. China is going through the same process now. Inside the Communist Party, they are having a purge. You know what a purge means in communism? When they purge corruption. So hopefully we'll see a Communist Party there that will be less corrupted. But at the same time, we need to have clarity that socialism and communism, as China experiences today and others have experienced in the past, lacks integrity. Why it lacks integrity? Because it's based on the opposite principle of the Constitution of the United States. The power does not reside on you, on the people. It resides on the government, on the state. And you are there to obey the government. You see how corrupted it is, that principle. And every socialistic country that has really gone into socialism has ended in totalitarianism. Look at history. So let's look at the principle of socialism, and you will see how distorted it is. They say there is no God. God has not bestowed men with any power. That's a story. Yeah. The power does not belong to people, so where it belongs? And then they say, oh, it belongs to society. That's an abstraction, right? Society is kind of an abstraction. It's not as concrete as the people, you and me. Then society, this abstraction, bestows the power to the government. Therefore, the government is the repository of all power. And you have no power. The individual has no power. The government has the power. But to begin with, these governments in socialistic countries, they don't represent the people. They have not been elected freely. And even if they were elected freely, the principle is corrupted anyway, because the power continues to be in an elected government or in a non-elected government. The power continues always to be in the people. It belongs to the people. So the principle in which the Constitution of the United States is based is a metaphysical, spiritual principle of very high integrity. And this is why when David Hawkins calibrated the Constitution of the United States, it calibrated 700 and something, which is a very, very high number in the map of consciousness. It requires an enormous level of integrity for a document, a political document, a legal document, to calibrate at that point. So now, when you have attained an ego that has integrity, that is conscious of its own power, that is taking responsibility, that it is creating its own reality with its beliefs, thoughts, feelings, actions, then, only then, awakening to your true nature will come. In the meantime, I highly recommend that you keep working at reaching integrity, true, deep integrity. And if you feel that you're ready, if you really feel that you have attained significant integrity, I'm not saying perfect, but significant, and that awakening is kind of calling you, then you can call me and we can go through the awakening protocol. Don't dream that you will wake up to your true nature and all your problems will be gone, because the ego still will be hanging in there. And if the ego has no integrity, consciousness will confront you. And you will have to deal with all the areas where your ego has no integrity and work them out during the embodiment process after awakening. Yes, the awakening happened, but you need to keep working in embodying the awakening, and for that you will have to get rid of all that stuff in your ego that lacks integrity, so that you attain a mature ego. And the ego will be there and will only dissolve when it's ready.